I am pleased to welcome you from a whole bunch of places. This is a lot of suburbs in search of a city, including good old Burbank, California, Van Nuys, Beverly Hills, Newport Beach, Laguna. You pick your town. This is Southern California. And you know how to make a guy feel good. Hey. And you're not kooky, and you're just like all of us. You look just like the folks in New York. And we're counting on, well, I hope you're complimented by that. I am pleased to present two of the most successful entertainers in our business. They've hit the long ball for a long time, and what do you know? They've been buddies for almost 25 years. Here are Don Rickles and Bob Newhart. You've been pals for almost 25 years. You've been around the world together. Your wives are pals. You guys have been in trailers. You've been to Israel. Incidentally, Don, have you met the Pope?
Why? I met a few rabbis, but never the Pope. I would be honored if I had met the Pope. No, Bob had, well, we did meet the Pope in a way. I don't know if this is the time to tell you, but it was at the Vatican. We were on a trip to Rome, and Bob and a fellow friend of ours, Carol O'Connor, said, listen, I have influence that you guys can see the Pope. I said, the Pope? Wow, this is terrific. The Pope, the holiest man in the world. This is wonderful. And Bob's a devout Catholic, and I'm a Jew, and I remind him of that every single day. And we both were in Rome, and Bob said, okay, Carol O'Connor called and said, so-and-so, Father so-and-so is going to take us to the Vatican to see the Pope. I pictured 7 of us sitting around with a cigar and a cigarette saying, Holy Father, what's new? You know. And we got up that morning, and I said, Bob, it's time. We're ready. We have... And he said, well, let's get some sleep. Bob talks like that because he fears an earthquake that didn't hit him yet. And to make a long story short, I had to wake them up. We went to the Vatican, and there was 1,500 people in a packed auditorium. There was a little man on a litter, 70 miles from us. And we went, Holy Father! That's how we met the Pope.
Bob, just try and tighten up the answers just a little bit. Okay. It's only an hour show.
You didn't really need me for this show, did you?
Well, there's something going on here. I mean, obviously, you guys must be good for each other to be traveling like this. How'd this happen? I mean, you remember? Did you work together, or what?
No, actually, what happened was that my wife, Jenny, knew Barbara. She was a secretary for an agent, and she was going with the agent, so she knew Barbara. So Don was in the, we were in Vegas together. I was in the main room, and Don... True. And Don was in the lounge, so Jenny called Barbara, and she said, why don't we get together with Don and Barbara?
You were married, both of you, at the time?
Yeah.
No, we were single, working the area.
All right, I've just... Yeah.
So, Jenny called Barbara, and Don, at that time, was still one of the big spenders, invited us to have dinner at the cafeteria at the Sahara. So we did, and Don was saying, oh, and at that time there was just Mindy, and I think we had Rob and Tim. And Don was saying, oh, there's Mindy, and gee, I hate to be away, but you got to be on the road. And as we were leaving, we were going to see Don's third show in the lounge, and Jenny said to me, she said, he's such a sweet man. He's such a lovely man. I said, well, honey, it may be a little different once we get into the lounge. So we got in the lounge, sat down, and he said, I want to introduce very good friends of mine, the stammering idiot from Chicago, Bob Newhart, and his hooker wife from Bayonne.
And it was love ever since.
Ever since.
Yes, whose hand did I see over here? Somebody. Yes, ma'am.
This question is for Don. Why do you hide your feelings for, you're so patriotic. Sometimes it comes out in your nightclub acts and sometimes it doesn't. Why do you hide that?
Why does he hide his patriotism?
Yes,
You took the words right out of his mouth. This is what I've been waiting to ask him a lifetime.
He can be so funny and then yet bring tears when the end of your show, you can end. The end of your show, you say things about our country, and I saw you. Yes, he does.
You liked him, didn't you? He's good.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I was in, unfortunately, World War II as a sailor, and I say these patriotic things in case they want a man over 60 again, I don't want to go.
Yes.
I was wondering, Don, how you got interested in your particular brand of humor.
Well, I'll say one thing. Compared to the young people that are coming up today, I'm a priest.
This is a question for Bob Newhart. What's it like working with Daryl and his other brother, Daryl?
Well, they've become almost cult figures. They're like, they become generic, because I'll go to a place and somebody will say, you know, we got Larry and Daryl in the back. Have them fix it, you know, whatever. But they're great. They're very unusual. They're fun to work with. And the interesting thing is that Daryl come to the script reading, which is on Monday, even though they know they aren't going to have any work.
This is for both of you. Excluding each other, who are your role models?
Excluding each other, who are your role models?
Well, I can only speak for myself. My role model was, thank God, is Frank Sinatra and Milton Berle.
Ferdinand Marcos, I guess. I would say Jack Benny would be mine.
I'd like to ask Don how he developed the phrase, "you hockey puck."
I really don't know how that came about. I think in my days in Miami in a little tiny club, I called a guy a hockey puck. He passed it to 3 other guys in Brooklyn, and it skyrocketed.
Yes.
Are Larry and Daryl, is Daryl and Daryl ever going to talk at all before the show's over?
If this year is our last year, that's a possibility that they might say something. I don't know.
Hi, you both have very unique comic styles. Did you start with those styles when you first started your career, or did they evolve from something else?
Go for it.
Well, I don't know. I think to me, it's just being around at the right time. I mean, I talk like this. This is not a put-on.
Yeah. Didn't you have a buddy? Didn't you have a double act? A guy by the name of Gallagher you worked with in Chicago.
Gallagher, yeah.
You must have been 14 years old at the time, right?
We did a kind of a poor man Bob and Ray kind of show, and
actually on the real live radio, or
on radio. We were in Northampton, Mass, Jacksonville, Florida, and Idaho Falls, Idaho. It's true. In 1958, something like that. And we charged $7.50 a week for five-minute comedy routines. And at the end of 13 weeks, one of the stations stiffed us, never paid us. And 2 wanted to renew us, and we wrote them back and said, thank you very much, but we can't afford to do this show anymore. I mean, it was costing us more in tape to send it out than we were getting it.
And he became a big shot advertising guy, went into straight real work.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was the origin of your one-sided conversations, etc.
Well, it is. Yeah, there always seems to be somebody there.
Now, your pal is Long Island.
Right.
Can't be all bad. Your father was an insurance man and a dry goods guy. What?
No, he was an insurance man for Metropolitan Life.
Uh-huh.
And he was a great salesman.
Yeah. He must have made him laugh, too. I mean, you must remember, huh?
He was the kind of a guy, the best way I can explain my dad was, rest his soul, was he the kind of guy, Phil, he'd put his arm around a lady and never be dirty about it.
I think I know that kind of person. We could use more of those folks.
Thank you.
You had how many in the family?
I was the only child, and my mother knew that every morning because she put on her patent hat and woke me up.
But you didn't. You had a good childhood. I mean, there's no, you know.
I did. I was backed against the radiator a lot, and she went, "Why?"
You were a good student.
No.
No.
All
right.
I was the president. I'm not proud of that. I was the president of my high school and had trouble spelling cat.
Now, here's everything I know about you. This kind of humor, as to which the person in the audience referred a moment ago, didn't you have to work to a bunch of guys off the ship? Yeah, where's the broads, you know? Didn't you? And you went out.
Weren't you one of the guys?
And you went out and took him on and started coming back, and you
Right. Well, that was because out of, as Bob knows, in our business, in our time, when we stood out on the stage, television and improv, there was no such thing. I worked in, Bob came out of radio and television, and I came out of what they call strip joints, for the lack of another word, where they had 17 girls with a fan, and I used to stand in the back being single and go, and we had these shows, and out of frustration, I did impersonations badly, and I had an act that wasn't too funny, and I started to talk to the audience, and the sailors would yell up and say, "When are you going to get funny?" You know, the old cliches, and I would tell them, you know, "How would you like it if I suck your neck?" You know, and all of a sudden that became very funny. As you can see now, it had trouble.
Yeah. It took a while. Now, just a couple other things. You'll pardon this, once again, this preoccupation with comedy. I'm impressed with the fact that you guys have hit the long ball for so long. And in your private lives, I mean, you're storybook guys. I mean, married once, loyal, faithful. I mean, this is going to be a long show for me. We have no scandal at all here. I am not the first person that you've heard. You guys are probably never going to get on Current Affair now. You should know that. You also seem to have whatever neurosis there might be there, and I hope there's some. That's what makes us human, but it's very, very manageable. Neither of you drink, certainly to excess. What is this? How'd this happen to the Gentile and the Jew along the way?
Well, somebody called me up and said...
You have a sister and nun, a real live nun. Yes. Well, I mean, this is wonderful.
As opposed to what?
Well, I mean, it's just a great Irish Catholic Chicago family. All right, go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead.
Somebody called me up and they said, "Look, Don Rickles is looking for a best friend." and none of us want to do it with you. And I said, "How long?" They said, "A year at the most." And we're so opposite, you know, that he makes me laugh and I make him laugh. That's why we're friends. Also, part of the question you asked is that humor has an awful lot to the duration of a marriage. Some of the longest show business marriages are comedians.
Yeah. Ruth, may she rest. And Milton.
Jack Benny.
Yeah.
George Burns.
Yeah.
And I also think, which Bob and
Thomas.
Danny Thomas, let's get it in. And Rosie.
Yeah.
The secret of his success, by all means.
Great couple, and you're going to come into a lot of money someday.
I'm telling you. If you reward this, we get more of it, and I'll have to take it out of the
Phil,
tape.
what I was saying, though, the basic thing is, between Bob and I, being, as I say this in my performance every night I appear wherever. I always mention Bob, which is unusual for a fellow comedian to mention another comedian every night in his performance, because I mean this from my heart. The basic thing is, for all of us, the great thing is, as Bob always says, it's key. When the wives get along, that is a great secret to becoming great friends. Yes. And Bob's wife and my wife are like sisters. Jen and Barbara are like sisters, really. They love each other dearly. Bob and I were raised, two American guys, two different worlds, and yet we became great friends. But the basic thing is that we both have the same values. I really believe that, and I know it for a fact. We both believe in the same basic things. Yet we can make each other laugh. We can be annoyed with each other. Most times I'm annoyed with him. Yeah. But not really. But that's the whole thing. A ship doesn't run every day. We don't get up in the morning and say, is Bob up? Is Don up? I'm off to see the wizard. It's not like that, you know.
Now, do you split the bill right down the middle on vacation, or does, I had the a la mode and you had the pie with
No, that's his bag. He will tell you the honest truth about our trips when it comes to handling everything.
He's a CPA.
Oh,
no,
you kidding?
I'm not a CPA.
I'm the luggage watcher.
CPA, you had to pass the test. I just had a degree in accounting. That was all.
Well, you're close.
So I'm in charge of the money, and I reconcile it at the end of the trip. And it's good because Barbara is very efficient. We flew one time. We were going to Venice, and we landed in Heathrow in London. And Ginny and Don were just sitting with the luggage, and I was converting American dollars into lira, and Barbara was checking on plane flights, the connections and all that. And we both came back, and they were both sitting there on the luggage. And I said, you realize if we got on a plane and flew back to L.A., they would still be sitting on that luggage?
Yes.
Hi, I was wondering if you're ever going to do a show together.
Well, they have.
We did, yeah.
We did.
Well, you've done several things together.
Bob is the kind of a guy, he's an investigator, and he's a kind of a guy that really is devoted. He's a fine writer. I'm pretty much a gypsy. I say, what time do I show up? If the right property came along, I'm sure we both would be delighted to do something together before the light goes out.
Yeah.
This is for each of you. If you weren't comedians, and thank God you are, what would each of you have gotten into? Have you ever thought about that?
I would have been a bag man. No, I never thought other than being a comedian all my life. I think I could have been some sort of a social guy in a hotel, greeting people, whatever that kind of job is. But I was never good at business. I was always good at meeting people. So I can't say that I would, other than being a comedian. Bob could have been running the country, but that's a whole story.
You thought about it?
I probably would have been a teacher, I would think.
Yes.
I don't know.
Good for you.
I'd like to know if either of you have children, and if so, I bet their life was pretty exciting.
Well, we both have children, as we said at the beginning of the show. I have a daughter, 23, and a son, 19, and they live their own lives, and they live it well, and I'm proud of them. And Bob has the same. I don't want to speak for Bob, but I can say, knowing his kids, because I'm Uncle Don, and vice versa, and he's Uncle Bob, and our kids are very well adjusted.
You kept them out of the old spotlight, didn't you?
Well, my son hides. My daughter wants to be an actress. She gets up in the morning and goes, listen, Dad, showtime. No, I'll hear about that. That's a joke, honey.
Are your wives here now?
Pardon me?
Are your wives here now?
No, they're in Europe.
No. Sitting on a luggage.
Hi, Bob. I've always enjoyed your telephone routines. Can you tell me how they got started?
Well, I didn't originate them. I mean, one of the first records ever made was George Jessel did a routine called, I forget what it was now, talking to his mom on the phone. And then Shelley Berman, of course, before me, did telephone routines. They're just some routines that lend themselves to, because I'm not really saying anything funny. I really am not. What you're laughing at is what is unheard, which the other person is saying. Because I've had to put it down on paper, and when you look at it on paper, it's not funny at all, but thank God.
Yes. Bob, I love your show, but I miss Suzanne Plachette. Did she turn the roll down?
Oh, thank you. Susie will be glad. No, there was, when I first started thinking about coming back to television, after being off for like 4 years, we thought, maybe we'll pick up the old series where it left off. But Susie wanted to do a play in New York, and the more I thought about it, that it was kind of too easy to do it that way. There's more a challenge to start with a whole new concept and see if it works. I don't know.
Yes.
How do you get along with the people on the show off screen?
Well, that's obviously directed at me since he doesn't.
I had many shows, but they...
We're a family. You have to be a family. You're with them 8 hours a day for 8 years now. I mean, you've got to be a family.
Bob, after seeing the show that was aired last week, are you sure you never wanted to be a nightclub singer?
I missed that one.
We have, don't we have that?
I do. It's not ready. You wait. All right. Okay. This is. You still bring it home, kid. I mean, I'm talking about Mr. Television every week. You may be the longest running person in that particular vehicle. That is to say, comedy situation.
No.
Huh?
No. Who? Lucy. Not even close.
All right. Okay. Well, that's stratosphere. Let's talk about mortals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don, I've seen you do drama before. Have you ever gone for any more dramatic roles, or have ever thought about going up? Because you're very good at drama.
Well, thank you. I have a picture coming out now with Lee Majors and Abe Vigoda. A picture. That's what I said when I got the part. And it's called Keaton's Cop, and we shot it in Galveston, Texas. I don't know if you've ever been down there, but it's great. I have an uncle there, but he's wonderful. He just sits around going, why am I here? Anyway, but we had a good time doing it, and it's a little different for me, and I'm delighted to, when I get an opportunity to act, I enjoy it.
Here is Brother Newhart on his program. The script apparently, it's an amateur night, and you won't go. And everybody's saying, come on, and everybody gets up, and tap dance does something, plays the bones. You are not moving. Finally, you just say you're not doing it. You're much to the disappointment of everybody. You feel a little guilty about it, but you can't get up in front of a... That is not the other... Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it this the one? Where he gets up, and he's... Everybody has gone. Everybody has gone.
Great stand.
Oh, my heart. Listen.
They're having an argument, and this is coast to coast.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, in order to pick up $50 a night, sings at this club, and we're forced to go there, and it doesn't go well for him at all. And they leave, and I'm sort of tagging behind.
The place is empty. Bob has not, apparently, wonders if... Here is a man who's delivering. This is as fine as it gets. Here is a wonderful, wonderful moment. No writer could do this. Bob Newhart delivers.
But don't pass the plate, folks. Don't pass the cup. I figure whenever I'm down and out, the only way is up. And I will be up like a rosebud high on that vine. Don't thumb your nose, bud. Just take a little tip from my end. I may be a little bit short of the elbow room, but let me get me some. And look out, world, I say, look out, world. Here I, ching ching chong, ching ching chong, chong, ching ching chong. Here I come.
We'll be back here with Bob Newhart and Don Rickles in just a moment. Brian, let's see some of this stuff. I want to see this album business. I promise I'm gonna get you on here.
You better.
Huh? I what?
You better.
I know. Listen, I don't want you mad at me, but I do want a show. Show them here, Brian, from the Newhart, Rickles, here we go. Here's the cast picture. Okay, we'll go through quickly. You know these people. Here's Newhart. Look at this. Prince Charles, Farrah Fawcett, and Johnny Mathis. Here's Newhart with Rowan and Martin. Here's Brother Bob with Ed Sullivan. And with Buddy Hackett. Gene Wilder. And then that's the cast picture. Now we move to Don. Here's Don with Tommy Lasorda. What's not to love there? Rickles. Next, there you are with Cary Grant and Fred Astaire. Boy, I'll tell you, we should all have this kind of life. Here's Rickles and Reagan. You know them. Rickles and Cosby. Rickles and Hope. Rickles and Johnny Carson. Rickles and Frank Sinatra. Rickles and the Duke, John Wayne. And there you are with Clark Gable. Come on. Boy, you've been around the world here. Yes, yes.
Hi, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I was wondering, Don Rickles, how you felt about Jackie Mason and his new role on Chicken Soup. Does it make you feel, well, how do you feel in general, I guess, about racial jokes? Does it make it any better or more acceptable if the person telling the joke is of the same ethnicity that the joke is about?
The whole idea is it's what the public enjoys. Jackie Mason has attained, it took him a long time, he's attained great success. I can only say I wish him the best, and I must say, it's according to what your taste is. If you enjoy that, wonderful, then he's a winner. If you don't, nobody begs you to turn it on, so.
Yes.
Don Rickles, you're like two different people. Today you're so cute and like a teddy bear, and I want to hug you. But I was in a show in Las Vegas, and I wanted my money back because you were so rude.
God love you.
Yes.
I was wondering, where did you get the inspiration for the carpet commercials?
Now, I did not plant these people in the audience, huh?
A great deal of money.
Yes.
Now, I know, Don, you've caused a lot of embarrassing moments for a lot of people. What was your most embarrassing moment?
Well, I think the most embarrassing moment for me off the top of my head is I went out on the stage with Donald O'Connor, and I have a thing that I do with Bob. I did it on his show when I was his guest. At the end of the show, I kissed him on the lips. And Donald O'Connor was out on the stage with me in Las Vegas many years ago, and I said, Donald, I love you. And I kissed him on the lips, and he bit me.
Will the two of you be performing in Vegas together?
Well, you answer that, Bob. I don't see any plans. Bob's schedule is so difficult with his television show, which is going better than ever. I would like someday to have some sort of performance live between the two of us. Maybe that'll come about, but right now, his schedule and mine is as such that I don't see it in the immediate future.
Yes.
Bob, you are such a darling, but if you were my husband, I would be so angry because I want to see some temper. You just seem, if I yelled at you, I want to see a fight, okay? How are you with your wife regarding that? Show us a fight.
No, I have a temper.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I tend to stifle it, but then it's like a volcano. When it happens, it's not a pretty sight.
This is for Bob. Don Rickles has such a sarcastic sense of humor. Being a good friend of his, can you tell us a sensitive part of him?
Oh, well, Don, no, he's very sensitive. He's very active in charity work, and if he ever thought that any of the people in the audience was offended by anything he said, no, he really, I saw Don one time. This is the truth. He would call that person up the next day and say, gee, I'm sorry, I hope you understand, that's what I do. And I saw him one time, there was a guy sitting in the front row at the Sahara. Guy had on the worst hairpiece, the worst rug I had ever seen in my life, and he's sitting right in the front row, and I'm going, oh my God, how could they put this man? And Don keeps walking past him, not saying anything. Finally, he just looks down and he said, no one would guess, sir, and he walks on. The guy spent the rest of the show under the table. He wouldn't come out.
Bob, I love your show, and I hope it goes on for a long time. But when it does end, what do you have planned for the future?
Well, I would take like a year or two off and probably do personal appearances, and then probably come back in another vehicle. I can't imagine retiring. I can't imagine playing golf every day. It just, you got to do something, you know.
Hi, Don. When you were a kid, did you get beat up a lot with your sarcastic?
Not really. I had Blue Cross.
You weren't, this aggressive thing didn't happen to you till early adulthood. Do I understand that?
I was in my 30s before I started doing this kind of thing, whatever I do, picking on people and making fun of everybody. It happened as the camera gets in my way.
Yeah. It's all right.
I want your name. You're going to look for work. No, I'm kidding. He's all right. Find his name.
There he is. There he is.
But it really happened later in life out of frustration of not having an act, so to speak. And for many years of standing up there and talking to the people, it became a performance.
You did not marry till you were 38 years old.
That's correct. I was lonely.
You were...
No, I must say that I married the best lady in the world for me, and our marriage in March will be 25 years. So
Now, do you still, both of you, still get the buzz before the solo performance in the big room where the guy has just spent $100 on a bottle of champagne, and you guys better be funny, if you know what I mean? That can be a tough out.
Well, Bob, I think you agree, right? It's always a challenge to us, right?
Yeah, I remember reading, one of the young comics wrote that he said, you know, there's the first show, but no matter how good that is, there's still the second show. And I thought to myself, wow, what insight. You know, that's the way it is, no matter, you know, but people have been doing that for years, long before us. I mean, it's just, if you're not nervous, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Bob, you being Catholic and Don being Jewish, have you tried to convert him, and if not, why?
I had a letter from the Pope saying, one time, because...
Tell them when we went to Israel. When we went to Israel, I said to the Israelis, take them to the birthplace of Jesus. Did I or did I not?
That's right.
And the Israelis kept saying... Anyway,
one time, we called Donna Barbara and we said, what did you do today? Because this is a Jewish tradition which Catholics don't have. Don said, we went out and we picked out our plots. Oh, yeah. And I said, what do you mean you picked out your plots? He said, well, we picked out for Mindy and Larry and Barbara and I and Eleanor. And I said, well, you know, Catholics don't do wherever you drop that you find the nearest Saint whatever, and that's where you go, you know. He said, no, in the Jewish religion, you buy your plots ahead of time. And I said, how many plots did you buy? And he said, 8. I said, 8? Why'd you buy 8? There was only 7 of you. And Barbara said, he didn't want anybody next to him.
We'll be back in a minute with Bob Newhart and Don Rickles in just a moment.
Hi, this is a question. I have a question for Don. Don, what is of the new here I am over here. Look over your shoulder.
George Shearing.
How could you miss? Of the new comedians today, who do you have a favorite? What is your...
Well, I wouldn't like to mention a favorite. I think there's a lot of talented young people out there today, and it's so competitive it would be unfair for me to say one particular person. I think there are a few, in my personal opinion, that are outstanding, but there are a lot of youngsters coming up real fast.
Yeah.
I have no... Roseanne is a star already. She doesn't need my support, as she told me.
Yes.
This is for both of you. What words of wisdom would you give to any new upcoming comic or comedian?
Be funny.
Gee, I don't know, just...
I'd say get a day job. It's very, very tough to say to become a comedian. I think you have to start out in acting, as Bob did in radio. He did all those radio years, and I did in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, learning a little bit about what this is all about. And then you go out there and you throw your best shot and hope and pray with a lot of luck and talent and if you're really lucky, you make it. It's a very tough, competitive business.
Yes.
Bob, a question for you. When you've been on a series for a few years, do you find the character gets a little more sarcastic, a little more complacent towards the end?
No, I think that you have to keep it alive, and you have to find nuances and open new avenues, and that's really the work of the producers and the writers, and they've done a wonderful job. They've done an incredible job.
Right. I am about to present, I don't know whether this is the first time, Coast to Coast, the worst home movies I have ever seen in my life. Now, you would think two guys, you know, television. Wait till you see this. This is us on the bus. I think you're in Jerusalem. You're in Israel here, I think.
This is Israel.
All right, let's this audience see now, Brian.
Is...
Let's kill the lights here so we can see.
See, the problem with shooting is you're never in the film. So no one believes you actually went along on the trip. So,
and this is where?
This is in Israel.
This is Israel. You're about to see the caves. I assumed that was Mount Carmel.
These are Bedouin caves.
Now watch the bus. Look at this. Watch out.
Bedouin caves, and the Bedouins would actually keep their camels and their animals. The other problem with shooting the film is you never can see where you're stepping. Now
there's your guy.
They would live, David, yeah. They would live in these caves. And they would enlarge the caves. They needed more room.
Now, watch this.
Everything is safe and square. Unbelievable. Yeah. Bob, look what you're stepping in, Bob.
Whole movie!
Hi, you're both so cute. Bob, how long have you been married, and are any of your children, either of you, following in your footsteps at all?
Well, I'll be married 27 years in January. And my oldest boy, Rob, turned 26. We just celebrated his birthday. It's very close, but we made it. Being Catholic, we just. Timmy is 22, and he's a gopher at MTM. My daughter Jennifer. They've been around the business, as with Mindy and Larry. You know, they'd be backstage. So they know the glamorous, but they know the unglamorous. They know what it is to walk through a kitchen to go on stage and say, "Be careful, don't step in that." You know, so they're pretty level-headed about their expectations of the business.
And as I said earlier, my daughter is studying as an actress. She's studying very hard, and she has a part-time job also. And my son is interested behind the scenes in film editing and directing. And he's very, very involved in that, and I wish him the best. Pardon me.
Yes. Don, considering your brand of humor, have you ever had any lawsuits against you?
No. Are you planning to make trouble?
Of all the travel trips that you've taken together, which is your most favorite?
That's tough.
Well, I would say Israel. That was incredible.
Yeah. Paris was the toughest because our wives sucked every dime we had out of it.
But I would say Venice also. Venice was one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
We really did. In the gondola, the two wives going, "This is exciting."
Yes. Phil, Bob, on your show, do you have any children, or will you have any children?
Well, no, I won't. But this year, Julia Duffy was pregnant, and we're going to incorporate that into the show. She's had Daniel already, but I think in January she has the baby. And
I wanted to know, since you're best friends and all of you both have the same barber.
As a matter of fact, we do. That's the truth. Brian, he's our barber, and he comes in, and in 10 minutes, $300 to go. That's it.
Hi, Mr. Newhart. Your comedy is fairly subtle and straightforward, and in both your shows, both Bill Daly and Tom Poston play more or less dim bulbs, where you can, their characters are people that you can play off against, and your comedy is brought forth more. Do you prefer working with people or characters like that?
You like to be surrounded by stupid people?
Well, now, see, I love playing opposite Stephanie and Michael, because, I mean, they're not stock situation comedy people. You don't see them every time you turn them down, and they're wonderful to work against. I love working against Larry, Daryl, and Tom and Mary, and it's I work against people. I guess that's what I do.
This question is for both of you. How long ago exactly did you start in Las Vegas, and how has it changed from then to now?
Well, I would say I started before Bob in Las Vegas. In my day, it was an individual owner. Today, it's corporate operations, and it's hard to reach, except I work for Steve Wynn at the Golden Nugget, and he's one of the few guys that's a one-on-one guy that I can pick up the phone and say, Steve, you know, my toilet paper didn't come. And he would sit in his penthouse and said, who cares, you know. But it's a different world. In the beginnings, when Bob and when I first started, it was more of one-on-one guys, and now it's big corporations with a lot of people from Japan wandering around going, you want to play golf?
That's Vegas and a lot of other places. And we'll be back to good old Burbank, California in a moment.
One, two, three, cheese. Hurry up.
So many young people in the audience.
Thank you.
That's the great part. You know,
Thank you.
Sometimes you get the ladies with the shopping bags.
Thank you.
Take a second. As you know, Bob Newhart starring very successfully in Newhart, which, as you know, airs Monday night CBS. That's the 10 o'clock time slot, and you own it, kid. Boy, that's some achievement, really. And Resorts International is very proud to bring you The Mouth That Roared, the Merchant of Venom. What do you want to call Don Rickles, outside of being a very loving guy with a wonderful family? He's at the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas, Decembers 1 and 2. Don't forget Keaton's Cop with Lee Majors and Abe Vigoda on the big screen. I hope it's a killer. I hope you make a lot of fun.
With both you being friends in the comedy business, is there ever any friendly competition?
Well, I can say this very honestly. It is a rare occasion that Bob and I talk about each other in competitive ways. We talk about other performers together when we're on trips or just out socially. But I've never found an occasion when he and I went one-on-one about each other. We have always said, hey, I really enjoyed that particular performance, or he would tell me about a certain show I did, but we've never been competitive that way, and I think that's what's made our friendship even stronger.
It's very funny about comedians. Other singers will rave about the last show they did was incredible, and people were lined up and standing ovations, and dancers. And you put two comedians together, and they will say, I died last night. You can't believe how bad the audience wasn't.
Yes,
I don't know what it is. I guess if you say it, you're hoping it won't happen again.
Yeah. How do you feel about having Don in the audience when you work? Say in a Vegas.
Don, it's happened. I've been in his audience. He's been in mine.
And it's okay. It doesn't alter it at all for you?
No.
I become a little nervous when Bob's in the audience, really. Yeah. I find that I get a little uptight. I realize he's there to see greatness. And we have a lot of fun, but being that I respect him so much, when he's in my audience and vice versa, I think he feels the same way.
You know what would make me crazy, though? If the material doesn't crack the ceiling like it did last night, there's only going to be two people in the room who know, you and him. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah, Phil.
All right, good night.
Don?
You're annoying, Phil. You really are.
Don, will you be at the roast for Tommy Lasorda?
No, dear. I just finished the roast for Tommy. I don't know when this is aired. Just this past weekend in Atlantic City. But I did a tape for them, and it'll be on tape what I say, because I'll be in the Orient with my wife looking to buy Chinese food.
Hi, I'd like to know what the two of you were like in your school days. Were you the nerds or the class clowns?
Well, I know that Bob was the student. He taught me how to add 4 and 4. I was the class clown. I have to admit that, yes.
Don, I'd like to know, since you're such close friends, do you live next door to each other or in another town?
No, I'm trying to move to another town. No, we live pretty close to each other.
Yes, sir.
Yes. This is for Mr. Rickles. I'd like to know, Kelly's Heroes is one of my favorite movies, and this new movie you're coming out with I hope can be as good. Do you ever get together with any of the old Kelly Heroes bunch?
Well, Telly Savalas and Clint Eastwood I adore. Donald Sutherland I don't see too much. Carol O'Connor's a close friend. So we get together, and I keep telling Clint, you know, that he looks good, but...
And who is your favorite talk show host?
Phil Donahue.
Oh, thank you. And we'll be back in just a moment. You're getting mellow, kid.
Thank you, Don.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Newhart, I've seen you on your TV show every week, and then I've seen you in Reno on stage. How come your humor gets so mild on TV?
Yeah, and you're so raucous and such a loudmouth.
You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my.
That's very, very good advice.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
To thank these two